Never before has there been a piece of news from the royal family that has shocked the world like it has today. A long-hidden secret has finally been revealed, causing a wave of shock and many unanswered questions. What is happening in the powerful harem that many people have never known? And how will this news change the image of the royal family? Let's discover the shocking details right now. The truth behind the majestic walls of the palace has just been revealed, and this shock has made the whole world stand still for a moment. A sudden, unexpected, and mysterious announcement has caused a stir in both the royal family and the public. The months of speculation about the health and internal situation of the royal family now have an official answer, a reality that has shocked everyone. A morning that was supposed to pass peacefully with solemn ceremonies, gentle smiles, and meticulous preparations suddenly became enveloped in a suffocating, heavy, and scary atmosphere. The royal press secretary, with a cold face without any emotion, made an important announcement. No introduction, no attempt to calm public opinion, just a few affirmative sentences that left the public bewildered. Immediately, a series of questions appeared. Is this a serious health problem for the king? Is the royal family preparing for a major turning point? Or was this an inevitable decision to abdicate? Despite the theories, one thing is certain. No one could have prepared themselves for what was about to happen. The cameras captured every tense moment, not only in the palace but also in the hearts of the public. Prince William, despite trying to maintain a calm face, his eyes still revealed deep anxiety. Catherine, sitting next to him, could not hide her tension either. Her eyes were both anxious and determined, reflecting her fear of an uncertain future. King Charles, despite facing serious health problems, still tried to maintain a dignified image, but his demeanor and eyes were no longer the same as before. In particular, the sudden absence of Queen Camilla raised more questions. Was this a strategy, or simply a sign of change within the royal family? Rumors about the king's poor health had long been around, but now they had become an undeniable truth. Everything is in a state of alarm, causing both the royal family and the public to hold their breath to follow every development. In the context of tension and instability in the royal family, a bold and unprecedented initiative has emerged, surprising both the palace and the public. But what is special is that this initiative did not originate from King Charles, but from Prince William and Princess Catherine. Called the Diana Initiative, this project is not just a charity or reform plan as many people think. It carries a profound message with a long-lasting impact, going to the core of the values and heritage of the royal family, creating a strong mark on the future of the monarchy. The naming of Princess Diana, who passed away in 1997, is by no means accidental. William and Catherine are reviving a legacy that has never faded. Diana is not only Charles's wife, but also a living symbol of compassion, courage, and spiritual strength. Her moments of devotion to the needy, her hospital visits, and her courageous confrontations with the paparazzi have now become a living inspiration, reminding the world of her timeless influence. The public response was immediate and overwhelming. Social media was flooded with images, videos, and information about Diana, from heartfelt moments, hospital visits, to acts of kindness. Once again, Diana, though no longer in this world, is alive in people's minds as an immortal icon. The initiative not only brings a new chapter of hope to the royal family, but also opens up a new vision of how the values and legacy of the past can shape the future. However, it also casts a shadow over Queen Camilla, who was officially crowned queen in May 2023, after years of working to build her own image. Her absence from major events, her rare public speeches, and her limited media coverage have fueled speculation. Is the Queen being forgotten? Insiders say Camilla was once against the initiative, fearing it would overshadow the message of the monarchy. But as King Charles has weakened, her opposition seems to have lost its weight. William and Catherine are no longer simply heirs. They are leading a quiet revolution within the royal family. Diana's legacy has been revived with new charities and a renewed vision for mental health, empathy, and community. The values Diana championed throughout her life are now being brought to life through the official statements and strategies of the royal family. Meanwhile, Camilla, despite her tireless efforts, is at risk of being forgotten, and speculations about a post-Camilla era are beginning to spread, putting her in a difficult position in the near future. Is this a long-term strategic move to reshape the royal family, or just a temporary adjustment in the midst of a crisis? No one knows for sure. But one thing is clear. William and Catherine are taking the royal family on a completely new path, where the past and present merge to create the future. As the world watches, the big question remains. Is history repeating itself? Or was this a carefully planned plan? And what secrets are still hidden behind the crown? How will these changes shape the monarchy in the years to come? This story is only just beginning. Even the imposing walls of Buckingham Palace cannot conceal the quiet movement taking place within. In the seemingly endless silence of its palatial corridors, a story is emerging. A shift so subtle yet so powerful that it is impossible for anyone watching to ignore it. The latest royal announcement, seemingly polished, formal, and tightly controlled on the surface, has unleashed a storm that not even the crown can contain. The change is not just about Charles's health, though concerns remain, but also a sign of a delicate, silent transition of power taking place within the royal family. Insiders recount sleepless nights, tense meetings, and a public image of a calm monarch who is filled with regret and unresolved wounds. At the center of this storm is the Diana Initiative. Although it bears Charles's name, it is actually led by Prince William and Catherine. More than just a charity, this is a rebirth of an immortal icon, Diana, who defined compassion and the ability to connect beyond measure. For Charles, clinging to Diana's legacy is a painful reminder of past mistakes he has never overcome. The memory of Diana, whom Charles once wanted to erase from his mind, now lives on in the actions of William and Catherine, reflecting the values she once embodied and reminding the world of what has been lost. The announcement also puts Queen Camilla in a delicate position. After years of working to build her image and gain recognition, she has been increasingly overshadowed. Her absence from major moments raises the question, is this strategic or simply inevitable? Whispers from behind the scenes suggest that Camilla's influence is waning as Diana's legacy takes center stage. William, by contrast, has no claim to the throne, seemingly filling every power vacuum, redefining the monarchy in a way that is accessible, modern, and empathetic. According to insiders, most of the speeches related to the Diana Initiative were not written by Charles's advisors, but were coordinated directly by William and Catherine. If true, it is a clear sign of a turning point. The next generation is no longer just waiting quietly, but is actively driving the narrative now. For Charles, this realization is painful. His reign, though formally consolidated in Westminster Abbey in May 2023, is now being reshaped by forces he cannot fully control. His legacy, once so carefully guarded, is now tied to that of Diana, a person he once wanted to erase from memory. Speculation about the future of the British royal family is no longer just about the throne or the hierarchy of power. It is a series of subtle strategies, quiet but powerful decisions. Messages sent through every speech, every hospital visit, every public event that William and Catherine attend. The public can see the change, but they can hardly grasp its depth. Power is shifting quietly, and Prince William's every move is carefully calculated, like the pieces on a royal chessboard. Kensington Palace, rather than Clarence House, has become the center of media attention, where questions about the future of the regime are raised every day. Prince William, famously cautious, now acts with precise decisiveness, as if he is plotting a long-term strategy for the royal legacy, not personal power. He is not alone. Catherine, Princess of Wales, has emerged with a powerful authority without needing a crown to be recognized. Her presence at hospitals, schools, and community centers is not a matter of duty, but of genuine connection with the people. A stark contrast to the past, a clear demonstration of a royal family reimagined from the heart. What is remarkable is that while Charles still tries to maintain a calm, composed image in public, his eyes, gestures, and silences reveal an unprecedented anxiety. Every decision now affects not only the current reign, but also how the next generation will mark history. And while the spotlight is on William and Catherine, the dark corners of the royal family still hide complex relationships, hidden calculations, and secrets that could change the landscape in the years to come. With the Diana Initiative, William and Catherine are not only reviving the memory of an immortal icon, but also laying the foundations for a new royal family. Modern, empathetic, and more in touch with the public than ever before. It is a quiet but meaningful reset, where the past and present come together to shape the future, and where power no longer resides in the throne, but in how the royal family reaches out to the people. If Queen Camilla built her power through subtlety, carefully crafted relationships, and a calm presence in front of the camera, Kate has made her mark with something harder to measure: public trust and affection. Every time she appears, every gentle smile, every kind gesture is like a solid brick laid in the foundation of a monarchy that is quietly evolving. The difference between the two is so obvious that it is undeniable. Camilla, after years of trying to build her image and even being reluctantly accepted for Charles's coronation in 2023, now seems to be retreating into the background. Her name is fading from the headlines. Her image seems to be fading, losing the light that once shone. The charities she has been associated with now receive less media attention. Some of her close allies have left or changed positions, leaving her image lonely and isolated. To those watching from afar, this silence felt less like a choice than a sign of neglect. Even the long-time quiet retreat of Ray Mill, Wiltshire, once a haven from the spotlight and the ceremony, no longer held its former peace. Rumors of unwanted attention and leaked documents, whether true or not, added to the sense of isolation felt by a woman who had once been at the center of the royal stage, now receding into the shadows. Meanwhile, William and Kate were quietly but surely reshaping the royal narrative. Rather than making grand statements, they were building their power through small, meaningful actions. Each visit, each meeting, each heartfelt word. They were not just carrying on Diana's legacy, but also reviving the values she had passed on: compassion, dedication, and community. The Diana Initiative, inspired by the late princess, is now not just a memorial, but a symbolic pulse, leading the way for a new chapter in royal history, strong and subtle. King Charles remains on the throne, but his image has become more of a symbol than an active monarch. He does not prevent change, but seems to let the quiet movements take place. For Camilla, this distance is a silent abandonment. For William and Kate, it is an opportunity to assert their position. Rumors of the decline of the monarchy have been rife, but the reality is the opposite. This is not a period of decline, but a quiet, strong, and hidden rebirth. The new heartbeat of the royal family now depends not on titles or symbolic power, but on the solid and steadfast presence of William and Kate. Power is being re-established subtly, quietly, but gradually becoming clear. The public and observers wondered, has Queen Camilla begun her reign in all but name? And when the silence is louder than the crown, are there secrets quietly shaking the palace that we don't know about? At Buckingham Palace, there were no trumpets, no resounding speeches. Instead, a wave of silence filled the corridors, wordless but full of meaning, like a message of power without titles, enough for all eyes to follow. For King Charles, after more than 70 years of waiting, finally ascending the throne should have been the pinnacle of his power. But now he was faced with a strange feeling. Power was no longer entirely in his hands. In the quiet corridors of the palace, meetings continued, phones rang, important decisions were made, and he, the king of the land, was left outside the established arrangements. The Diana Initiative, without any loud announcements, was still sweeping the press. William and Kate were the center of attention, receiving admiring glances from the public, while Charles seemed to be pushed into the background. For him, the question was not just why he was overlooked, but whether all this was a sophisticated strategy or simply his son's way of subtly re-establishing his relationship with the past. As father and son sat together at Clarence House, the atmosphere was so heavy that every word hung in the air. Charles, tired but unflappable, wondered why the powers that belonged to the throne were being exercised without his guidance. William, cool and steady, responded not with an explanation but with a statement. This was not a power struggle, but a strategy already in place. The moment marked a quiet rift between the two generations. Charles, trained for decades in ceremony and caution, believed in slowness and steadiness. William, raised amid drama and scandal, understood that for the monarchy to survive, it had to move quickly, change, and create a language that the public could immediately understand. For Charles, it was haste. For William, it was necessary preservation. There was no compromise, no handshake, only a heavy silence as Charles left the room. Soon after that meeting, whispers of a power shift began to emerge. Advisors adjusted their strategies. Aides realized that William was no longer a prince who just stood by, but a leader who was taking the initiative and making decisions. Even without a coronation or an imperial decree, that day still became a milestone. Power was being transferred silently but irreversibly. The influence that had once been attached to Charles's throne was now gradually tilting towards the next generation. But what secrets were hidden behind this curtain of silence? How would the hidden competition shake up the royal family? The story never stopped. The first storm came not from a speech or an imperial decree, but from a carefully chosen phrase. At the charity luncheon, Camilla smiled when mentioning the Diana Initiative. The monarchy serves with devotion. We don't need to cite the past to prove that. For many, the phrase was simply a courtesy, but to the press and the public, it was a subtle message, a reminder not just of Diana's memory, but of the woman who was leading her legacy. A small statement, but one that could make every palace corridor vibrate in its own way. Catherine, Princess of Wales, was once again thrust into the public spotlight. Within hours, her every word was being scrutinized, analyzed, and quickly spread across newspapers and social media. Her comments were scrutinized as a subtle signal of the hidden competition that the palace feared but could not openly refute. Pundits began to ask, was Camilla defending tradition or simply defending her own position? When the polls were released, a clear trend emerged. The public was no longer neutral. Admiration for Kate, which had been rising since the Diana Initiative was launched in early 2024, had reached a new high. But Kate once again did not respond with strong calls or criticism. A few days later, she attended a small event related to the initiative. When she stepped up to the microphone, she said a short but meaningful sentence. "This work is not about the past. It is about the future we build together." Short but powerful. The words were not just a response, but also a subtle statement. While Camilla still clings to the stability of monarchical tradition, Kate represents transformation, constant and purposeful change. The contrast between the two is too obvious to ignore. A queen who maintains a stable but somewhat rigid monarchy, and a princess who has not yet officially been crowned but makes an impact through empathy, modernity, and strength. The public noticed it immediately. Commentators did not hesitate to ask, is this just a difference of style, or is it the first sign of a far-reaching reshaping of power within the royal family? While aides rushed to reassure the public that unity remains intact, palace insiders paint a different picture. Kate's influence is no longer limited to protocol, but is shaping conversations, guiding strategy, and even changing how people view the role of a royal leader. Two women, two separate paths, and while the palace remains quiet on the outside, a wave of polarization is brewing outside its gates. But the question remains, what is really fueling the whispers of a rift within the family? And how deep is it? The story is far from over, and the coming events promise to be even more dramatic. Whispers of royal rifts are not new. They have been seeping through the corridors and private rooms of palaces long before the public has had a chance to see them. These are not stories about the wrong dress or a ritual gone wrong. These are subtle signals, quiet taps into the foundations of power, where a conflict is brewing under the surface, but no one has the courage to name it. The rare moments when Princess Anne, the epitome of restraint and principle, betrays a look of frustration, a frown, a forced smile, enough to shake the imposing walls of tradition, have given outside observers pause. Anne does not act on impulse. Every decision she makes is the result of a principle, an unwavering ideal. This time, the target is not an official or a courtier, but Queen Camilla herself. Anne has always seen the monarchy as a living symbol of duty and service. In her eyes, the throne is more than a title or a ceremony. It is a pledge to the people. Anyone, even the current queen, who undermines that mission will face a determined and uncompromising challenge. But Camilla is not one to be cowed. Over the years, she has weathered countless challenges: public criticism, harsh journalistic stories, and political pitfalls few outsiders see coming. From her early days of intense scrutiny in the press to Charles's coronation in 2023, Camilla has proven that she knows how to stand firm and be strategic in any situation. If Anne is the embodiment of candor and honesty, Camilla is the symbol of patience, wisdom, and quiet strategy. These two women, in their own ways, are forming opposing forces at a sensitive moment in royal history. The tension between them is not new, but has existed quietly for decades, since before Camilla officially became part of the family. The overlapping romantic relationships between Charles, Camilla, and others have shaped and changed the entire power landscape in ways that few could have foreseen. To understand the current chill, we must go back to the 1970s, when Anne's heart belonged to Andrew Parker Bowles, an admired Army officer. That passionate love was torn apart by the law prohibiting her from marrying a Catholic, forcing Anne to sacrifice her personal happiness. Later, the complicated relationships between Camilla, Andrew, and Charles deepened Anne's wounds and created invisible threads that will shape the dynasty. So when Anne expressed her discontent, it was not a temporary stubbornness. And when Camilla stood her ground, it was not out of vain pride. It was the survival instinct of those who had been through so much to defend their position. This was no superficial quarrel. It was a silent war where power, loyalty, and legacy were wielded as the most subtle weapons. The world watched every detail, the averted glances, the forced smiles, the absences from events. People wondered if this was just an old wound reopening, or a sign of a monarchy under pressure from within. One thing was clear. The confrontation between Anne and Camilla was about more than just the throne or the title. The real issue was who would shape the future of the monarchy, who would mark itself as its true defender. And the secrets behind the crown were still quietly waiting to be exposed, enough to shake Buckingham Palace. From this moment on, one thing is certain: the British monarchy is not as simple as the world has always seen it. The royal family, bound by centuries of tradition, is now teetering between memory, loyalty, and power. At the center of that silence, two women, Princess Anne and Queen Camilla, stand firm, carrying stories, secrets, and histories that stretch far beyond any bright smiles on the public stage. Their story does not begin today. It begins in 1973 when Anne married Captain Mark Phillips and Camilla married Andrew Parker Bowles. But Camilla's heart was still with Charles, and Charles could not stop thinking about her. By 1981, when Charles married Diana, a secret relationship between him and Camilla had quietly taken root, becoming one of the most famous love triangles in modern royal history. Camilla was known as the destroyer of happiness and was subjected to harsh criticism, but she chose to rise quietly, overcoming humiliation with patience and strategy. Anne, on the other hand, was a symbol of duty and principle. She watched her family's every move, remembered the hurt, and kept her eyes clear. Perhaps she never forgave Camilla for the suffering Diana endured. When Charles and Camilla married in 2005, Anne kept her distance, polite but never really passionate. She was blunt, saying that Camilla would never be a queen in her eyes. Time, as it often does, softened the hard edges. Camilla, through her perseverance, her charitable contributions, and her calm demeanor at Charles's side, gradually won cautious respect. But the divisions still smoldered, a reminder that the past is not easily forgotten. And recently, the conflict has flared up again, not in whispers, but in public actions. At the University of London, where Camilla was being honored for her literary contributions, the atmosphere was both solemn and tense. Camilla entered with a regal gait. Anne maintained a dignified composure. Even small gestures, such as who walked first, became messages full of hidden meanings. A few days later, the announcement that Camilla would be absent from an important royal performance due to a chest infection raised many questions. Was it the real reason, or a strategic move? Meanwhile, Anne continued her duties, and her silence only added to the weight of speculation. The public began to wonder, was this a personal conflict or a battle of principle, where Anne, the representative of duty and order, faced off against Camilla, who refused to be left out of history and gradually rebuilt her power. Rumors of power struggles and elaborate plots are rife. But the question remains, will this storm explode, or is it just a quiet tension, challenging the regime from within? One thing is clear. Behind the magnificent carriages and the grand ceremonies, there is a web of rivalry, where every glance, every word, every absence is carefully considered. As the world watches, every detail becomes important, leading one to wonder, is the British monarchy facing its most silent but dangerous challenge yet from within? So what do you think? What does the recent announcement about Camilla mean for the future of the royal family? Share your thoughts and stay tuned for more dramatic developments.